Hello, students, and welcome to our lesson on adding fractions with like and unlike denominators. We have kind of a long lesson today, and I think you're going to end up doing some of it for homework tonight, so be prepared for that. Also, today is our first day of map testing, so let's keep our schedule straight. Period 3 meets on Thursday, period 6 and 7 meet on Friday this week. So first, I want you to respond thoughtfully to the do now question, which is about reactions, reacting to situations. We'll talk about that. Today, we are going to add fractions with like and unlike denominators, a little bit of a review for some of you. Our essential question is, how can I convert fractions with unlike denominators to like denominators so they can be easily added? And we're going to be reminded today that our fractions need to have like denominators in order for us to add them. We'll watch the video on adding fractions and we will complete the worksheet. Our exit ticket, I'd like you to write in your own words, what steps must you take before adding fractions with unlike denominators? We had a quiz yesterday, a short one. I noticed that a lot of you did not turn it in. Make sure that you click see results to turn the quiz in Teams, and that way I can grade it and we can give you credit for that hard work. So let's start with our do now for today. And a little bit about reacting today. Why is it sometimes good to count to 10 before you act? What exactly happens between 1 and 10? So a little bit about our emotions and math kind of mixed in there. And well, it takes a few seconds to count to 10. So what happens between that time when you're really ready to kind of blow up or be mad at somebody or maybe say something you might regret, and you say, well, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What does that allow you to do? How does that work? How does that calm you down? What's going through your mind when you're counting to 10? Maybe you're thinking of a better way to say what you need to say. Maybe you're just calming yourself down. So write a sentence or two about that and think about that. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Well, hopefully you responded to that prompt. And we also have an exit ticket today. So pay attention to this when we do our lesson. The exit ticket asks, in our own words, what steps must you take before adding fractions with unlike denominators? So let's move on with our lesson. First, we're going to start with fractions that have like denominators. So this is the numerator, and this is the denominator. So we have this example here of 7/5 plus 4/5. And the instructions tell us first to add the numerators and keep the denominator the same. And then if necessary, simplify. If we simplify, we make our fraction in the most reduced form, okay? So we keep the denominator, so we don't add the 5 and the 5, we just keep the denominator, but we do add the 7 and the 4. That gives us 11/5. Now, we see that's an improper fraction, and the question is, how many fifths are in 11? So we can use division, and 5 goes into 11 2 times, because 2 times 5 is 10. We subtract, we have 1/5 left over, and that's how we get from here to the mixed number. So let's do some practice. So we have 5/8 plus 1/8. We keep the denominator the same. That would be 6/8. 6 and 8 are both divisible by 2. So then we can reduce that fraction or simplify it to 3 over 4. And that's our final answer. 5 sevenths plus 2 sevenths is 7 sevenths. And if we have 7 of sevenths, then we have 1 whole. Anything over itself equals 1 whole. We're working here with fourths. 5 fourths plus 6 fourths is 11 fourths. And these are both improper fractions, but we can reduce this. There are 2 fourths, because 2 times 4 is 8, and 11 with 3 fourths left over. In number 4, we again keep the denominator, and 4 plus 2 is 6, and 6 elevenths is a final answer. We cannot simplify that any further because there's no number that divides, is both a factor of 6 and 11 that will allow us to simplify that fraction. Again, keeping the denominator, 3 plus 2 is 5. Now, just like this one over here, number 2, anything over itself equals 1. So 5 out of 5 over 5 is equal, I almost wrote a 5, let's fix that. So 5 over 5 is equal to 1 whole. Okay, now we have tenths as our denominator. 6 plus 3 is 9. We cannot simplify that, so our final answer is 9 tenths. Here we're working with twelfths in the denominator. 7 plus 3 is 10, and we see that both 10 and 12 are divisible by 2. So we'll go ahead and do that. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. And in number 8, we're dealing with ninths. So that would be our denominator. 8 plus 3 is 11, and that's more than 1. So there's one group of 9 and 11 with 2 ninths left over. So you have some practice here on the next page that you'll be doing. But before we start that practice, let's take a look at unlike denominators. So the things are going to be a little more complicated here. So with unlike denominators, first, we find the least common multiple of both denominators. That's the key step. And that will be our new common denominator. Then we will rewrite each fraction using the new common denominator. First step, second step. Then we will add the numerators and keep the denominator. This is just as we did with like denominators, and simplify as necessary. So the new steps here are step 1 and step 2. So let's get started. So it says, find the least common multiple of both denominators. Well, the multiples of 8, I'll write it down here, are 8, 16, 24, 32. And the multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24. Well, I've got what I need, which is a common multiple. The lowest or least common multiple. Let's write that down. Least common multiple of 8 and 6 is 24. So we need to rewrite these fractions with 24 as a denominator. So we need 24 to be our new denominator for each of these fractions. So the next question we ask is, what did we do to get from 8 to 24? Well, we multiplied times 2. So that's what we're going to do with the numerator. We'll multiply that times 2. And times 3. I said 2. I meant 2 in addition to the 8 we already have. So 5 times 3 is 15. And we multiplied 6 times 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 times 4 is 4. Now it's easy. We have a denominator of 24, and 15 and 4 we add, which makes 19 24ths. It's a little bit of work when you do these. So let's change the color again. We have 7 and 2 as our denominator. So multiples of 7 are 7, 14, 21, and let's stop there. Multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Well, look, we finally have one. We have that 14 that is common to both of them. So here we'll circle it. And what do we do to get from 7 to 14? We multiply times 2. So that's what we'll do with this 5. We'll multiply it by 2. So our new denominator is 14. 5 times 2 is 10. Now, what do we multiply 2 by to get to 14? We multiply it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then we have to multiply the 1 times 7. Should be a plus sign there. Okay, and now we have 10 plus 7 equals 17. Our denominator is 14. Now, 17 is greater than 14. That's an improper fraction. So 14 goes into 17 one time with 3 left over. All right, let's look at number 3. Now, sometimes you get a little bit lucky when you do these. And what happens is you have a denominator that will already work for you. And the reason it will already work is because 8 is a multiple of 4. So if we look for multiples of 4, we have 4, 8, 12, and so forth. So because 8 is a multiple of 4, we can use that multiple, that denominator, and keep it the same for 1/8, but we'll need to convert 1/4 to eighths. So let's do that now. So we said that the denominator will be 8. And how do we get from 4 to 8? We multiply by 2. So we'll multiply the numerator by 2, which would give us 2/8. Remember, this one doesn't need to change. 2/8 plus 1/8 equals 3/8. And that is already simplified. And that's a final answer. Let's look at number 4. Again, similar to number 3, this denominator of 10 is already a multiple of 5 because 5 times 2 is 10. So we're going to keep the first fraction because we're going to use 10 as our new denominator. So how do we get from 5 to 10? Well, we multiplied it by 2. So that means we multiply the numerator by 2, which would give us 8/10. Again, with a denominator of 10, we add the 8 plus 2, it equals 10, and 10 over 10 equals 1. And that's our final answer. Now here, let's look at multiples of 5 and multiples of 3. So multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15. Well, it looks like we got a winner here. This is our new denominator, 15. Now, what did we do to get from 5 to 15? We multiplied by 2. So that we're going to multiply the numerator by 2. And 3 times 2 is 6. And again, our denominator is 15. What did we do to get from 3 to 15? We multiplied by 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll multiply that numerator times 4, which will give us 8. So 5, 10, 15, 3, 6, 9. I made a mistake. I should multiply 1, 2, 3. I should have multiplied this by 3. It's getting late for the teacher, students. Let me go slower. Okay. I multiply 5 times 1, 2, 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. That's why you shouldn't go fast. Just go slow when you do your work. And 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, our denominator is 15. Our numerator is 19. 19 is more than 15. 15 goes into 19 one time with 4/15 left over. Okay, so 10 is not a multiple of 4, so we have to look for multiples. Guess I'm doing mostly red for looking for multiples today. So multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Multiples of 10 are 10, 20. Well, look, we've got a least common multiple here. So this will be our least common multiple, our new denominator for both numbers. So 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 20. So 3 times 5 is 15. And 10 times 2 is 20. So 3 times 2 is 6. Keep our denominator, add the numerators. 15 and 6 is 21. And that's easy to see that that's one whole with 1/20th left over. And the next one, let's see, we need to find a least common multiple. So multiples of 5 are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, and I'll stop there. Multiples of 12, 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. There's our multiple. Our least common denominator is going to be 60. Okay. So our denominator will be 60. And how many 5s are in 60? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We multiply 5 times 12 to get to 60, so we'll multiply 3 times 12, which would be 36. And we multiply 12 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll multiply the 7, the numerator, times 5. And again, our denominator is 60. Our numerator is 71. I just added 36 plus 35 to get 71. And 60 does go into 71 one full time with 11/60ths left over. And that's the final answer for that. And then number 8. What are the multiples of 4? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36. And the multiples of 9. 9, 18, 27, 36. So it looks like 36 is going to be our least common multiple, and that'll be our new denominator. So we'll have a denominator of 36. And I multiplied 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to get to 36. So 3 times 9 is 27. I multiplied 9 times 1, 2, 3, 4 to get the 36. So 8 times 4 is 32. So our denominator is 36. And our new numerator is 59. There is one group of 36 in 59. In 59 with 23, 36 left over, and that cannot be simplified any further. So you've got a lot of practice problems here. There are 14 practice problems. So I'd like you to try them on your own, pause the video, and then when you come back to the video, I will give you the answers and we'll see how you did. So take a minute and try to do them on your own. Okay, I hope you really tried to do those on your own. I'm going to go over some of the answers quickly. I'll just put the answers to save some time, and others I'll do them out. So the first one is 5/6. That's our final answer. Second one, 3/4. The third one, 6/6, which equals 1. Fourth one is 15/12, which would equal 1 and 3/12, which can be further simplified because 3 is a factor of 12. So 1 and 1/4 is the final answer on that. Number 5, 13/10, which equals 1 and 3/10. Number 6, 17/15, which equals 1 and 2/15. Number 7, 6/2, which equals 3 because 6 divided by 2 is 3. Number 8, our denominator is going to be 6, and you will end up with 19/6, but I want you to show your work. And 6 goes into 19 3 times with 1 6 left over. Number 9, your denominator will be 40, and you will end up with 59/40. 40 goes into 59 one time with 19/40 left over. Number 10, your denominator will be tenths, and you will end up with 8/10, which can be simplified because 8 and 10 are both divisible by 2, so we can simplify it to 4/5. Number 11, your new denominator will be 45, so you'll end up with 28/45 as your final answer. Number 12, I'll do that one out for you. So 10 factors of 10 are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So factors of 10 we get to 70, we know that that's also a factor of 7 because 7 times 10 is 70. So that's kind of easy mental math for us. So if 7 times 10 is 70, 5 times 10 is 50, plus, and we need 70, so we multiply 10 times 7 to get 70, so we multiply 1 times 7 to get 7, which would equal 57 70ths. And we cannot simplify that any further. Here, our denominator will be 30. 10 times 3 is 30. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 10 is 30. 2 times 10 is 20, which leaves us with 44 30ths, which is more than one. So that's one group of 30 with 14 30ths left over. And 14 and 30 are both divisible by 2. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. 30 divided by 2 is 15. And that's the final answer. And our new denominator here will be 40ths. 8 times 5 is 40. 1 times 5 is 5. 10 times 4 is 40. 7 times 4 is 28. Denominator of 40, numerator of 33. And that's the final answer. There's no common factor there, so we cannot reduce or simplify it any further. So let's look at some of this error analysis, and you might want to save this for homework. So the problem here in number 1 is they added the denominator. That's what they did wrong. Make sure you stop the video and try some of these on your own, please. So the answer here should be 5/6. Here, again, they added the denominators, and not good. So that should be 45ths. Number 3, same thing. This is a problem. That's what they did wrong. They added the denominators. We don't add the denominators. We find a common denominator and we only add the numerators. So number 4 is a tricky one. They have 7/10 plus 5/10. And they said it equals 12/10. So that's correct. So this is okay. 12/10. But when they simplified it, they did the simplification incorrectly. There's one group of 10 in 12 with 2/10 left over, and we can reduce that 2/10 to 1/5. So they simplified incorrectly. And in number 5, let's take a look at that. We see what they did wrong. They rewrote 1/2 as 5/10. They rewrote 4/5 as 4/10. So that's not right. It should be 5 times 2 is 10, 4 times 2 is 8. So this should be an 8. And 5 and 8 are 13. And that means we have 1 3/10. Okay, let's do the last few. Let's take a look at number 6. Looks like they found a new denominator of 10, but they did not rewrite the numerators. Okay, so what they need to do, let's erase those marks and let's write this correctly. So 2 times 5 is 10, and 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 2 is 10, and 1 times 2 is 2. So 15 plus 2 is 17. Okay, so we have 17/10, and that equals 1/10 with 7 left over. Number 7, the problem is they subtracted, and they should have added. So it should be 8/4, and we don't need this because 8 divided by 4 equals 2. Number 8, it looks like they flipped a fraction here, and there's no reason to do that. This so far is correct, the 13/12. So let's cross this out. So 13/12 equals one group of 12 with 1/12 left over. I love these error analysis because it really forces us to look carefully at the problems. In number 9, they have a new denominator of 16, which is correct, but they did not rewrite the numerator. They kept the old numerators. So we have to fix that. Let's do that right now. So 8 times 2 is 16. We have to multiply 3 times 2 to get 6. 2 times 8 is 16. We have to multiply the numerator 1 by 8 to get 8. So then so is 6, 2 times 8. You know what? They didn't need to make that 16. Let me show you how I would have handled that. I don't think we need to do 16ths at all. I mean, they could, but it's just a lot of extra work. We've got a denominator here that is just going to work out fine for us. 2 is a factor of 8. So I can just go ahead and write 3/8 plus, and I can have eighths as my denominator. 2 is a factor of 8 because 2 times 4 equals 8. So I can do 1 times 4. Okay, so I've got 4/8. And then with 8 as my denominator, add the numerators, 7/8. We're done. Doesn't have to be that hard. So let's look at number 10, our last problem. Now look what they did. They changed the denominator from 6 to 12, but they started out with the same denominator. So they did not need to change the denominator. So they could have just kept this. This was fine. So our answer would be 6. 4 plus 6 is 10. So that's one group of 6 with 4/6 left over. So we could call that 1 and let's see, 2/3. You could also, I just want to talk about something. When we had this 10/6, we could divide that by 2, and we could say, we could say that we have 5/3, and then we could get to 1 2/3. So different ways to get to the same place. Knowing your multiplication and division facts really helps you with this. So going back to our exit ticket, what steps must you take before adding fractions with unlike denominators? You must convert the fraction to have like denominators by finding the least common multiple. So I hope you practice, and I know if you do, you'll be great.